We're encouraged to ditch the car and take the bus, the train or the tram. It might be green, but is it clean?
Now, the way that some antibacterial products are marketed, you'd be forgiven for thinking that dangerous germs lurk at every turn. So, is buying a ticket to ride going to expose some real microbiological nasties?
We're going to run a snapshot test of one city's public transport system. Sorry, Manchester, but today you're going under the microscope. The man who will be running the test is microbiologist Dr. Anthony Hilton.
So what's the plan for today?
Well, we're going to go on public transport all day and we're going to sample things that we come into contact with.
So we're talking about rails and seats and that kind of stuff?
Yeah, everything really. Anything we touch, so there's grab rails, fast ticket machines, shelters, all those, we'll see what we'll take a sample.
It is vital in an exercise like this to make sure that proper scientific procedures are followed. And that means careful labelling of evidence and preservation of samples, which will then be taken back to Anthony's lab for testing. Let's get swabbing.
Make sure you get this table. Oh, look at that. So what sort of thing would you expect to find on public transport? What are you looking for?
What I'm mainly concerned about is not the bugs on the skin, but the ones that might come from people's gut.
From their guts?
Yeah.
Why is that important?
Things like E. coli, salmonella, all those kind of bugs can be associated with basically poor hygiene.
And those are terribly serious.
They hadn't washed their hands and they touched here, then you touched it, put your fingers in your mouth, you could get E. coli, salmonella.
More swabbing.
Oh, more swabbing.
The alternative to travelling on public transport is to drive yourself. So we swabbed the hire car Anthony arrived in, paying particular attention to commonly touched areas like the steering wheel, gear knob and the handbrake.
Have you ever tried sticking one of these to the window? You know the temptation is always to sort of have a quick lick, isn't it? Spit on
That's
it.
disgusting.
Altogether, we took 23 samples from one train, one bus and one tram, and now they've been analysed in the lab. First, though, the hire car.
So is there anything dangerous in this steering wheel?
No, absolutely nothing at
Right.
all, which is a bit of a shame, really, isn't it? Really, I love to find nasty bugs when I
Do
can.
you?
I do.
How does this compare to public transport? Because we took a lot of different samples.
I've got them set out here as the tram, the train and the bus.
Yeah.
And again, disappointing for me, but great for the general public, is there's absolutely nothing there to be worried about. But that's not the end of the story. What is interesting is it's not what you're touching when you're on public transport. It appears to be where you're sitting. You can see that those plates are very heavily
Well,
contaminated.
this one in particular, why is that one covered in mould?
That's actually a penicillium mould on there, and you can see that the mould is growing outside, and that's the white bit on the outside, and the central part of the colony is where it's got older and started to form spores which look green. And this is the very thing you find on cheese, on bread, and it's actually the thing that we extract penicillin from, which is what we use to treat infection as well.
And are these dangerous?
But if you had a cut or a graze, these bugs could get in, then yeah, you could get yourself a skin infection, but they're not going to infect you if you're a healthy individual.
Well, we found that penicillium in one seat on a tram. This may suggest that the hard surfaces like rails and buttons, which were clean in our test, get a little more attention in the tram company's hygiene regime than the seating.
Now, I have heard people cite the fact that there's bad hygiene as an excuse not to use public transport. But do you think that's valid?
On the basis of the results we've got here and the study that we've done, I don't think so.
So generally, a good result for public transport.
Yes.